Hello, everyone. This is the LockInYourSuccess.com Trading Performance Podcast with Master Trading Performance Coach John Locke, where it's all about real traders, real problems, and real coaching. This is episode number 35. And since we've been getting such a wonderful response from the excerpts we've been sharing, I decided I'd share another one with you. This is an excerpt from a presentation I did with a group of traders from the Boston Investors Group. This presentation is about emotions, not only about how they're formed and why they're there, but also how they affect your trading. So listen up and enjoy the segment. Our emotions are a result of our thoughts, but there's a challenge with that. The challenge with that is we're often unaware of the thoughts that created the emotion. Like I said, these thoughts happen unconsciously. And once an emotion is present, the emotion influences subsequent thoughts in a manner that's designed to perpetuate the emotion. Your brain works on different levels. Okay, you can think of it as different floors of a house or different floors of a building. And depending on what floor you're on, the information coming in and going out is going to be different. The way it's going to be processed is going to be different. So one of the ways to explain this is if you're really happy and you're having a good time with your friend and he calls you an asshole, right? You laugh about it, you have a good time, or you shrug it off. Even if he's like serious, you still shrug it off. Not a big deal. But if you're feeling angry or you're not confident, you're not feeling good about yourself, and he says the exact same thing the exact same way, you're going to take that completely differently. All of a sudden, it's this big problem and it blows up into this big thing. That is an example of being on a different emotion. So if you are scared, you're going to have, delete, distort, and generalize information in a certain way, and you're going to process information in a certain way, and you're going to take a certain action. If you're confident, you have a lot of self-confidence. If you're feeling self-confident at the time, you're going to delete and distort and generalize information differently. You're going to feel differently about it, and you're going to take a different action. Now, the problem is we look at the computer screen, the market's down, and we have an emotion. Or I should say, a feeling in my body that I'm interpreting as an emotion. Once that's present, I'm no longer filtering information the same way once that emotion changes. If that emotion happens to be fear, then I'm going to process my emotions differently, that information differently. I'm going to pay attention to different things, and I'm going to take different actions. Usually in trading, since the whole market is a fear and greed machine, the professionals feed off the fear of the average trader. Since that's the case, and you're in fear, and you're taking the actions of a trader who's in fear, they are very happy to work with you because they will gladly take advantage of you in that case. So we don't necessarily want that emotion. But the big thing is when it is what we call just simply observing our emotion and our states. So rather than feeling this fear and then just trying to process information through the emotion of fear, we want to identify or realize that we are in a fearful state and then disassociate from that state and deal with that state before we start processing information, before we start making our decisions. Okay. Think of an emotion as a thought detector. So rather than identifying with an emotion, disassociate and determine its cause. So if you don't know what disassociate means, here's an example. I am afraid. I am stressed. I am happy. The words I am at an unconscious level are programming words. When you feel feelings in your body, let's make a difference between a feeling and an emotion. okay? You see something on the screen or with your position that's really bad. You get a feeling in your body, a knot in your stomach, a sinking feeling, some sort of a feeling in your body. You interpret that feeling as perhaps fear. And then you say, I am afraid, essentially telling your unconscious mind that this feeling in my body is the emotion of fear. We are going to work off the fear floor, the fear program. And that's what you do. Rather than that, you want to disassociate from that and realize that your fear or that feeling you're feeling is that you're thinking thoughts that are creating certain vibrations and certain feelings within the body that you're interpreting as fear. There's a huge, huge difference between saying I'm afraid or I'm thinking thoughts and feelings. I'm thinking thoughts that are creating feelings that I'm interpreting as fear. And then asking yourself, what are those thoughts? That's what a disassociated person does. And that's what we're looking through meditation. And you can actually practice that. So you can go in and you can just kind of clear your mind a little bit, settle down, get into a state where you can imagine things like pretend, right? So think of it as pretending. So you sit down and then you're pretending. You're pretending you're in the trade. You're pretending something goes wrong. And you're pretending you feel a feeling in your body. And then when you feel that feeling, you're pretending you jump out of your body and you say, oh, I'm thinking thoughts that are creating feelings that I'm interpreting as fear. It just takes practice. If you do that, the thing is you can do that in imagination like 10 times in 10 minutes, right? If you do that continually, when it comes out and it actually happens, your mind, you're training your unconscious to actually jump out and disassociate and then think of the thoughts that you're thinking. And then you take the next step and say, well, what are the thoughts that I'm thinking that are creating this fear? And then once you do that, then you work on practicing a new thought when you see that scenario. So we see that scenario, you get the feeling. What thoughts am I thinking? You think the new, you replace the thoughts, you practice replacing the thoughts, and that changes the emotion, and then you can work from a different emotion. That is how we deal with our emotions. It takes practice. It's not always easy. A lot of it times it entails changing a belief that we have, right? For example, you might think if you lose a trade, that's a really bad thing. But realistically, it's not. Losing a trade, right? First of all, just the language. So let's work on our language a little bit. Just the language, losing a trade, is something that's going to trigger a negative emotion in you. Saying, I have $500 less now than I had yesterday is very different. Because you could have $500 less now because you took your whole family and extended family out to a nice dinner and you had a great time. It was somebody's birthday party. I have $500 less in my account. Who the hell cares, right? Or you can have $500 less in your account because you lost a trade. The circumstance is actually the same. You still have $500 less money. But the way you're thinking about it, because it was done with a trade, you have a whole series of other factors around that, right? You can say, oh, I lost. And that's going to have some sort of an emotional trigger to it. That's a thought, right? The thought you lost is very different than, you can have a different thought. I have $500 less money in the account. I learned a valuable lesson today. I made the best decision I could with the information I had, and what happened wasn't the most probable thing that would happen. This is just a game of numbers, right? You have all kinds of different thoughts that are different than I lost. And the way you present that information to yourself is going to determine the emotions you have from that. So It's very, very important to monitor yourself and understand that that's happening. And that is what I have for you today. I encourage you to visit us at lockinyoursuccess.com. That's LOCKE, inyoursuccess.com. And check out our pro membership so that you too can break through barriers and make quantum leaps in your trading. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you on the next Trading Performance podcast.